Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 26 of season 6. I'm your host, Joshua Buckley, with co-host Danny Paletti.
Good evening.
And joining us from Michigan, it is Joe Deluski, one of our favorites. How's it going, Joe?
Good. Hi, all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get into, I guess, results-wise, that was a good week. We're going to talk about something pretty special coming up on February 27th. Well, it's a little further down the line, a couple weeks away. But, Joe, there is something very exciting happening with Michigan Wolves for the Aston Villa game on February 27th.
Yeah, Josh and Danny, thank you. So pretty cool. I was contacted by the Premier League through the club, and it was really more of a Wolves USA type event. But they had asked me if we would be interested in hosting an episode or allowing us to host an episode of what they're calling their alternate derby series. And it's a docu-series that they do. The last one did the North London Derby, and it was Tottenham and Arsenal. And they sent crews out to Germany and South Korea, respectively, to film the supporters going through the experience of watching the match remotely. And this time around, they picked the Wolves in the USA and Ghana in Africa. And through the club, I got connected with them. And so they are coming out. They're bringing a film crew, which is a combination of a presenter, a producer, and all the film folks. And they're going to come out to Michigan, and they're going to film some of the landmarks around Detroit. And then on the match, they're going to come to Doyle's in Plymouth, and they're actually going to film us watching the game. They're going to interview some of us about our experiences, how we became Wolves supporters, and it's going to be pretty cool. And we're excited about it, and all are welcome. You don't have to be from Michigan. I know I've been talking about this on the social media platforms for a few weeks now, and I've got RSVPs from various people around the country that are going to come in for this event. So yeah, we're pretty excited. It's pretty cool. Todd from Wolves, the club marketing, Todd is going to come in. He's going to come in.
One of our favorites.
Yep, and he's going to be bringing some merchandise, and we'll have the place decked out. And also, this event is sponsored half by Guinness too. So Guinness will be there promoting their brand, and we're also going to combine this with another event on Saturday morning where we're going to join in another sports bar in Detroit. And again, all the details are out on the socials. But then we're going to get together that Saturday morning for another set of Premier League matches as well. But the Wolves Michigan and Wolves USA are going to be featured in the episode.
Can we talk about how impressive it is, Danny, that Michigan Wolves wasn't even a thing? What was it, 2-3 years ago, Joe? And now you're being featured in a documentary representing Wolves USA. How cool is that?
Yeah, guys, I have some folks who help me, right? I'm kind of the mouthpiece for the group, but there are a few of us that just work really hard. And you had Glenn on your show. He and Belinda and their family, Gianni, they really work hard to help get this out, and they invite people. And we've actually managed to bring some people who weren't even football fans in the past, but now they're coming to every watch event that we have. And we routinely get 10 to 15 people at every match, regardless of the time. So it's exciting. And my thing is it doesn't happen alone. And I give all the credit to the people around me who have worked really hard.
Yeah, well, my comment is, with Guinness helping to host this, that means that there's got to already be better beer than at the Premier League mornings, right? wasn't that like Michelob Ultra and not cheap, I might add. Like, I think I paid like over $14 for a Michelob Ultra.
And speaking of the Premier League mornings, that's another interesting topic because that's coming. I don't know if the club is going to come in. We may not be a Premier League team anymore at that time, but I'm going to be there. Glenn is coming down as well, so we're going to be there. So anybody who's out there is interested in the Tampa event, reach out to me. I'm going to probably be connecting with people down in Florida to see if we can find a venue. So kind of everybody keep their ears open for that. But hopefully some of you will be able to join me.
Yeah, what he's talking about, the Premier League's morning, that is in Tampa Bay, and it is on the weekend of April 18th. And that will be the Leeds game, which, let's be honest, if we haven't already been relegated, that could be the relegation game. It is definitely our swan song from Premier League mornings for at least a year, hopefully just a year, right?
But I think a lot of us have talked about behind the scenes, this isn't really pulling back the curtain. It's just like some WhatsApp groups that the three of us are on, or two of us are on in different ways. But it's like, what a great show of support. Because like there's genuinely, passionate fans out here. I don't feel like we need to justify ourselves necessarily, but like there's significant interest that I've seen, on the Facebook group, in the WhatsApp, for people to come out to the Tampa one and show up, even if it does end up being the game where we get relegated, because like, I don't know. I'd like to show people that like, it's not about that,
right.
First of all, I'm not going to be that sad that we don't get to be part of Premier League mornings next season. Like,
I will, because I guarantee you they'll be coming to Houston. Right.
Yeah, I guess that's true. There's zero chance they come to Baltimore, so I'm not that worried about it.
Well, I look at it this way, though. I met the two of you guys in Nashville for the first time. And I've met so many great Wolves people. Mm-hmm. And Florida is a great place because there's a pretty strong contingent of Wolves supporters in Florida. You got Chris and down in Fort Lauderdale. You've got Paul and all the folks from Orlando, and that'll be a good showing. So it's a great way for all of us to get together. And yeah, it's we can drown our sorrows maybe a little bit.
There'll be a lot of that.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. But we always get together the night before and party a little bit, and then get up early the next morning, and then stay Saturday and do the same thing. And
yeah, and hopefully that game won't be moved to Sunday. I can't imagine it would. I think it'll stay at that Saturday 9:00 time, or I guess that would be 10 a.m. Eastern time in Tampa Bay, right?
Get to sleep in another. Well, if they're on Fort Lauderdale time, who knows what time it is? But
yeah, who knows? Noon, midnight. I don't know. Fort Lauderdale time. I think if Todd Newton comes to that one though, I go there, he will not hear the end of that from me. I love Todd too. You're like, come on, man, use the clock. So that's very exciting. We're hopefully get a hold of Joe. We'll give you the contact details at the end of the show, so that way, and I'm sure he's got ideas on where people can stay and everything. And if not, then now he has 30 minutes to do some research. So there we go. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But we did have two games this week. They were two positive results. They were two absolute snore fests. So the first one was the 0-0 Forest Wolves match. And then on Sunday, we had Wolves 1, Grimsby Town 0 on perhaps the worst pitch I've ever seen a professional team play on. So we'll start off with that Forest Wolves game. How did Wolves even get a point from that, Danny? I'm still... They had 34 shots, and when Wolves have like 7?
Yeah, it was a rough watch in a lot of ways. I don't know what can you even say about a game that was so lopsided in terms of possession. I will say that it's not like, I mean, we could see how poor Forest were. I think like the reason why we sort of looked at that game is something that we could go into and get something out of. We could see what a difficult time they're having right now, because even with all that possession and all those shots, there weren't tons and tons of like great chances. At the early part of the game, there was a little flurry of like okay chances. And then as we sort of settled into it, not that this is a great thing, but settled into it defensively, their chances really became less dangerous. And so it's like, yeah, not a great game for the neutral, maybe one of the worst games for the neutral this season. But yeah, just created almost nothing in an attacking sense in that game.
It's two bad teams, Joe, when one of the teams has a 5-on-1 and not only doesn't score, but absolutely doesn't score in a hilariously comically way as it got blasted like 30 yards above the post. That to me just was a microcosm of both of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, one, I felt when I was watching it could have easily been 3-0 by halftime. And just because of the chances, Jose Sa did save us with, the shot wasn't a bullet, but he at least saved it from going in the net. And maybe I thought both teams were kind of affected a little bit by fatigue and fitness as well. They a midweek game coming off of a weekend game, match. It to me, it was a snore fest for the most part. And once the defenses settled in, it was even more of a snore fest.
Yeah, it was just it. You know what, Danny? You've seen. I always have to ask now if you've seen stuff because you didn't see Tropic Thunder. Joe, have you seen Tropic Thunder?
I've never seen Tropic Thunder.
God damn, you guys suck, man. You guys really need to expand your film stuff. Anyways, have you watched Indiana Jones, the original,
of course,
the Raiders of the Lost Ark? Okay, when he's telling Miriam, don't look, and then the Nazis are looking and their faces just melt off. That's honestly what I felt like after watching that 0-0 Forest game. Just like, oh my God, that was just so brutal. I mean, I don't even know where to go with that. Angel Gomez didn't really play that strong either.
I mean, he showed us a bit of what he has in terms of creativity, but it really highlights, where we're at in a recruiting sense. I think he's got a decent upside, and we can see that already. But we also see the trade-off that takes because I think it was a corner that there was the break from that created the 5-on-1 or 6-on-1 or whatever it was. But there were a couple other scenarios too where he was involved in sort of that back line, in a corner when we leave one or two players back to prevent those kind of breaks, where he was involved in that and unable to really stop it. And it's just like, these are the trade-offs that we're kind of having to make at this point in the season in terms of like having any kind of creativity in a game. And it didn't really pay off in this one, as we said, but in order to bolster this team in January, we're really compromised in other areas. So I think that's why a lot of people are looking at, the return of Bellegarde as another option, someone who's maybe a little bit more cultured and can kind of play a little more clever, even if you miss a little bit in terms of passing range.
I know, and we were just talking about last week, will Angel Gomez even be playing in the championship next year? Well, it looks like he does need some seasoning. I really enjoyed how Sam Dyche got fired after getting a result from the match because of just how poor they looked. Joe, watching that match, it now seems to me that announcers are actively rooting for Wolves to beat Derby County's record for lowest points in a Premier League season.
Yeah, and maybe it's just an issue that if they're going to be held accountable, they want to be as accurate as possible. I noticed it too, and they're the lowly, and not only that, but if you read the press too, we'll talk a little bit about the Liverpool fixture. I suspect at some point, but that's the story: is the top club and the bottom club in the Premier League are going to play in the next round of the FA Cup, and I noticed the same thing too. They're just kind of the sad, to the announcers, they become the sad, helpless losers, and mathematically, I think that's what's happening. But
I think it's just like to that point, like I just feel like there's always been I don't know, maybe every team feels this way, but like there's always been like kind of a lack of understanding from a lot of the press and the commentators about like what is going on at Wolves. And we saw that like several years ago where, you know, it was kind of the other way around, that we'd start a season and they'd say, oh, 100% this Wolves team is going down. They sold this player, they sold this player. Whereas the people who are actually paying attention were saying like, okay, but like the team that's here is still fine. Like it's good enough. And we were right over and over again. And then this year, I think a lot of people on the inside, people like us, were like, this window really didn't feel good enough. And a lot of the commentators were sort of falling back on like, Wolves are a, you know, mainstay at this point. They'll figure it out. And now they kind of like don't know what to say about the situation, where it's like, I don't know, I thought this team would be fine, but maybe it's just because they didn't know enough from the beginning. So
yeah.
Well, Josh, you mentioned them sacking Sam Dyche. I mean, the irony of it is that they hired Vitor Pereira.
It's like bizarro Wolves, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we didn't get Big Sam, but now they've had Nuno and Vitor. I don't know if they have enough 6'2" slow plotting guys to play Vitor's system, though. So,
yeah, but how many Weatherspoons are there in that part of the country?
So, yeah, the silver lining is Wolves are 1 point closer to being past that Derby County record. All they need is one win, Danny.
That's right. It's got to happen. Someone's got to fluke it for us. Maybe it's Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, we do still play Leeds. We do still play Burnley. So, yeah, there are possible ones there. Or just three draws like that, baby. Just pack the bus. Don't give up a goal. Don't look at all competitive. But 0-0. Get a point.
Or Villa. The event in Michigan could be that much happier, and we often do well against Villa.
And derbies are like the match at Grimsby, right? When you play in that environment, anything can happen in a derby. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of
matches have fallen you too.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, speaking of Grimsby Town, Wolves played Sunday in the FA Cup 4th round and won another thrilling, absolutely thrilling 1-0 match. Played on one of the worst playing surfaces that I've seen. I get it. Grimsby Town's League 2. They don't have the money to do that. But I did see a comment, Danny, that said, if Wolves were top of the EPL table, would that match have been played because the playing surface was so bad that they wouldn't want the players to be hurt?
Yeah, I have to think that it would not. And I also think that there was something to the fact that it was the early game. It was selected for television in the UK. I know we get used to like all the games being broadcast here, but that's not the case over there. And I just think that there was too much at stake, and no one really cared whether Grimsby or Wolves had to play on that surface. And so they just said, no, this game's going to keep going, which is, I don't know, maybe a shame. I don't know. We got through it in the end, but yeah, I mean, I think it weirdly looked better than it was in reality on TV. Like, it looked bad on TV. And my understanding from various voices, including guest of the show, Stu, he was on the Fancast earlier today talking about it, how like it's maybe the worst condition of a pitch that he's seen in his entire time watching football.
And keep in mind, if you look at old highlights, EPL pitches were not that great.
Yeah.
Like, not that long ago either. I'm not talking 50 years ago. I'm talking like 25, 30 years ago. They were kind of a mess. And it was just, it was a disaster. Did that scare you, Joe, that Wolves were really ripe for the picking because of the pitch and not being used to playing on such a drab surface?
Josh, I thought about that too. I mean, I don't know how frequently Grimsby plays on that pitch in that condition, but if I watch that match between the two teams, Grimsby looked, for the most part, more comfortable playing in that slop. I don't know what you thought. But
yeah, I thought the same thing.
They looked more comfortable, and Wolves. I mean, you could see with Wolves play that they're a league championship team, right, or Premier League championship team, and you could see the difference in some of the technique and tactics. But in terms, I mean, that game made me really nervous because it went a long time 0-0, and it looked to me like Grimsby had a better adaptability on the surface from what I saw. But then Wolves were patient and ultimately got the goal that they needed, but Grimsby came close a couple times. And when you get I equate it to like playing in an NFL game in really heavy snow, right? It's really difficult to say one team that typically could dominate will continue to do it. And I felt that way. It was like watching really slower motion football. And but yeah, I hope I answered your question, Josh. I mean, a long-winded answer, but yeah, from the beginning, it was kind of a nerve-wracking game.
Now, Danny, I'd have to think if Matheus Cunha was still on this team, he would have faked an injury 5 minutes in to get off that nasty stuff and save his career.
It is very hard to imagine him playing on that surface, and maybe that's part of just the aura of a player who probably is more of a celebrity than an athlete. It's just like he was destined to go to a big club like that for that very reason that you can't imagine. But that being said, he did, of course, play on that very pitch when Manchester United got dumped out of the Carabao Cup at Grimsby's hand. So, winning away at Grimsby Town is not for everyone, as they say.
Not for everyone. You'll never sing that. This was definitely the Santi Bueno game, and you could not have expected it. Santi scored with his foot, I might add. Well, not really his foot, with his knee. But it was, for a center back, anything below the waist is pretty impressive. Pause. Any goal scored below the waist is impressive. And so, suddenly 1-0, and then it kind of felt like from there, Joe, Wolves just were packing in the bus and just content with holding on to a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, avoiding injury and not doing anything, not doing anything stupid. One of the things I was going to comment on, I noticed in the Forest game, and I know we're past that, but it's that transition game, right? It's the transition game. They tend to give away the ball way too much. And I think what I saw in Grimsby was Wolves trying to avoid that, just more mistake avoidance than anything else towards the end.
Yeah. Of course, they still almost made a horrible mistake near the end. And somehow Grimsby Town, it looked like they were going to have a free shot on goal. And Santi Bueno comes out of nowhere and makes a beautiful tackle. Danny, I wish we see this from Santi every now and then. And we're like, this is a good player. I just wish he could consistently make plays like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was really pleased for him in a way, just because I think Santi Bueno has been one of the, I don't know if I'd say underrated. I think, on this team that's had the results that we had this season, I don't know what underrated even means, but I feel like he has been
probably properly rated.
Yeah, he's been a steady presence on this team when, he's been in it. I know there was a stretch there under Vitor Pereira where he wasn't getting in, and various for at the back attempts, which didn't work, where he was also left out. But when he has been in, he's been solid, which is not the way he's always been. And I don't know, it's just he's, close to being our top goal scorer at this point. Not in all competitions, because then you have, your stat padding Strand Larsens and Tolu Orokadares. But I don't know. I'm pleased for him because he's been a solid presence in the team this whole season. And he's definitely a part of that list of players who I would not be unhappy to have him playing with us in the championship. I don't know how likely it is. I think he's probably one that that could well stay, and I think that would be perfectly fine. I also think we've maybe by accident, but we've certainly come up with a position for him, which is that sort of more, he's the center in the back three, a little bit more of a sweeper. he's not having to do the as physical duels, with the pacey, wing backs or whoever would be running at him on the side. So it's been serendipitous in a few ways, and yeah, it's just a great game for him.
Yeah, it really was. It's good to see the guys that have been keeping a good attitude, and I do feel like he's one that hasn't been moping. He does appear to care about it. Plus, he's one of the Bueno Gomez crew there. In the continuing saga of who exactly is the Wolves captain, Andre was captain this time, Joe. And then when he came off the field, he gave it to Sam Johnston. I mean, I'm curious as to know what the record is for most captains by a team in a Premier League season.
Yeah, I bet you that there's some correlation between that and the fewest points scored.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
No, I mean, I if you ask me, I look at the way Wolves played, and I think I always thought they had respectable talent. I always thought that there was a lack of consistent leadership on the pitch, and because you've cycled through so many captains, and I think it's possible that that's part of the issue, is that they're trying to identify somebody who can be that on the pitch leader. And if you think about it, we've gone through the years, when we got to the Premier League, we had Connor Cody, who was one hell of a captain. I mean, he was a really good on the pitch leader, and they were good since then, but nothing in my opinion like Connor Cody was. And so I think that's one of the issues that the Wolves are going to have to resolve. At some point, is their pitch leadership.
Yep.
Consistent. Yeah.
So, but win and move on. And do Wolves have a cup run in them? No. We drew Liverpool, but it's at Molineux. So on normal years, I'd be like, Liverpool may not be throwing out their best guys because it's still kind of early. Let's see, you never know. But Danny, this seems to kind of be the end of the FA Cup journey, as I wore this shirt on purpose. Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's at Molineux, which means that there will be all the proper camera angles in case there's some necessity for VAR. And weirdly, just like that season, if I recall, we played them like close to then in the league as well. And then, of course, we had the replay that was the result of that VAR snafu. And in this one, we also play Liverpool that same week, which is just so frustrating. I don't know. So here's what I'm thinking. If we can split those games, we either get progression in the cup, which no one would expect, or we beat Derby's record. So win-win. We just have to actually win one of those games, which might be asking too much, especially because they smash Brighton in the cup this weekend.
I mean, you never know. And I mean, shoot, we might be able to even pull that Jurgen Klopp math and be like, well, I mean, technically they scored 2 goals in the first 10 minutes. Those don't count. And then, we played good defense and they only, so I mean, really, it was a 1-0 Liverpool win, right?
I've always said that during this entire season. Goals in the first 15 minutes and the last 15 minutes don't count. I'm sure that we would be above the relegation zone if that were the case.
It would be great. Joe, what are your chances, you think, of Wolves advancing?
I think it'll be a decent match. I think there'll be a good showing, but I think the cup run probably ends at Molineux. What is March 7th?
It's that weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some of the other.
I think at this point where Wolves are in their evolution and their adaptation to what's going on, I just don't think that. I think this is where it ends.
Yeah. I mean, it was going to be difficult. Basically, the 2 best options we could have had were Mansfield Town, who Arsenal's playing, and Wrexham, who Chelsea's playing. But honestly, I mean, you kind of, I don't know. Wolves versus Wrexham would have been funny if Wolves would have knocked Wrexham out. But
I think I saw something like maybe Men in Blazers, someone posted like the reaction from Ryan Reynolds or something when they drew Chelsea, and it was just like, man, if only they'd gotten Wolves. I imagine that piece of content wouldn't have made it out. Where it's like, oh, let's get the reaction. You get a Premier League team. Never mind. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, Fulham got Southampton and Leeds got Norwich. So, I mean, we're screwed. Whatever. Let's move on to talk about the next week's games, though. And we have another twofer. Wednesday, we are playing Arsenal. It is at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Joe, probably no need to cancel our cancel work meetings, right?
No, but I'll have it on. I put my TV on over my computer on mute while I'm working and watch the match. I do. You'll probably see a good team in Arsenal in play. I will do predictions, I think, in a bit, but I just think right now the two teams are clear. I mean, opposite sides of the table. I think I was looking. The goal differential between Arsenal and Wolves is 64.
Yikes.
And so,
oh, I hate Jeff Shee so much.
but at the same time, Wolves and Arsenal, regardless, always play pretty competitive matches. As far back as I've been watching Wolves, whenever they play, they've always been competitive matches. Arsenal won most of them, but they've been competitive, and so I think the atmosphere will be great. And I still think Wolves will have a struggle even drawing that.
Well, in the reverse fixture, we scored all 3 goals.
Yeah.
There you go.
100%. Still one of the more impressive feats that I've seen, scoring 3 goals and losing 2-1. It's just incredible. Or losing 3-0, excuse me. Just absolute.
No, it was 2-1.
Insane.
We scored twice in our own goal and once in theirs.
I hate it, man. I hate it. And again, I'm not able to drink because of this dang hip surgery. This has been just bad time for that to happen. Danny, when it comes to the lineup, I don't really know what's going on at right back. It's like, Gomez looked good for a little bit, Rodrigo Gomez, and then he had a stinker at Forest, and then Chachua starts in the FA Cup, and the guy won't even take on a Grimsby Town defender. Like, it's just so worthless. Where do we go at right back? Who
it's
gets
funny.
this from here?
I kind of thought Chachua had maybe one of his better games against Grimsby, but it's just like the whole level of the game overall was so poor. He was actually knocking the ball past players, which is all we've ever wanted him to do. I don't know. I think like with regards to the right back situation, this might be a scenario where he goes back to Chachua just because defensive stability, like something that Chachua seems to be able to do is to try to lock someone down. He can, beat them for pace if it's knocked down the line. So, we're not too worried about attacking output in this game. We're just trying to keep it tight. So, yeah, I think, like Joe said, I think, we tend to have competitive games with Arsenal. I don't know how we ended up having their number in the reverse fixture. We were doing so poorly at the time. And that actually looked pretty competent apart from the 2 own goals. So yeah, it's weird to think that like there's almost like a small glimmer of hope when like we know that, 30 minutes into that game, it could look like a horror show.
Yeah. I'm not really looking forward to that one. We'll get predictions on it here in a little bit. And then Sunday, we have Crystal Palace away. Joe, what are the chances of JSL scoring a brace against Wolves?
There at least one, Josh. I mean, he's motivated. He's got to be motivated. He scored 2 in his first match with Palace. They still lost, but he scored 2 goals. And maybe they've got somebody who can set him up and get him to the point where there's opportunity for him to score there. I was talking with the group in Michigan about this weekend. we forget that this is a guy who a year ago had 14 goals in all competition, and he was dry here, so he is a scorer. So my thinking, yes, there will be something he puts on the board against Wolves. I think he'll be motivated, and I think the Wolves defense is somewhat ripe for that too.
Yeah. Dang you, Newcastle. Again, I will never forgive Newcastle for this. He should still be motivated in being our guy. Whatever. What are your thoughts on the whole JSL rematch?
Yeah, it's funny. I went and looked at that game, or like parts of it anyway, major parts of the Palace game where he scored that brace. And I just, I still think that Palace fans, and especially now that he's scored a couple of goals, are massively overrating how he is compared to Mateta. I think that they think he's like a more complete player, and it's like I'd probably rather have Mateta, but that's neither here nor there. That being said, I think he was pretty motivated on his debut to score those goals. That's also that was a big game for them. But I think, like Joe said, he's going to have that motivation against us as well. So, I think he will probably struggle at some point this season for Palace, who have been struggling generally. I don't think that the game he's going to struggle in is going to be against Wolves.
I do not either. I do not. Well, let's look at the prediction boards. And well, who had a good week? He's got 2 thumbs. It's this guy. This guy right here. I called the 0-0 draw. And I called the 1-0 Wolves win. So 6 points for me, Danny. I've got 25. I'm now 7 points clear of you.
We'll never get it back.
Where am I in the catchability rankings?
I mean, you're still catchable. All it takes is, because I predicted the same result as you for Forest. I just did 2-2 draw instead of 0-0 draw. So it just takes.
Yeah.
No, you got it right. I'm not taking anything away from you. It's just gotta end up on the right side of those.
Yep. I just had 0-0. I just saw it written all over that. Joe, the guest spot has 11 points after Ryan got 1 point. So they need a little help from you. So let's look at this first game, and that is against Arsenal, Joe.
Yeah, I'm thinking, again, game's always competitive. It's at Molyneux, but I still see Wolves having a hard time scoring against Arsenal. So I'm going to predict Wolves 0, Arsenal 2.
2-0. Okay, that's a solid one. Danny?
Yeah, well, your tiny bit of hope for this game is that they have a few injuries, and also the North London Derby is at the weekend. So there's definitely going to be a priority for that one. But I think I will predict a similar outcome as last time, which is to say that there will be 3 goals. I don't know who's going to score them, which team is going to score them, but I think it's going to be Wolves 0, Arsenal 3.
3, yeah. Yeah, Arsenal. Yeah, I just don't see who's going to score for us right now. Arokadare gets in good spots, but Arsenal's, they've got a tough back line.
Put Santi Bueno up top.
Yeah, he might be our new number 9. You know what? I think Adam Armstrong scores his first Wolves game this game, or first Wolves go. But I'm going to say it's 3-1 Arsenal. Yeah, this won't be a pretty one, I don't think. Now, Joe, the Crystal Palace match.
Well, I'm going to use your prediction for Wolves Arsenal for Palace Wolves. I'm going to say, it's at Selhurst Park.
Where we never play well.
We never play well. So it's a bogey team, a bogey venue. And I see Strand Larson being a motivated guy. So I'm going to predict Wolves 1, Palace 3.
Okay. Danny?
Man.
Danny wants to pick a win here. I can
don't
see it
know.
in his eyes.
No, don't put that on me. don't want to pick a win, but I've like watched a bit of Palace recently, and they are not well. Which is, obviously a funny thing to say coming from a Wolves fan, but I just think that there's something off there. But they're still like more than capable of scoring against us, no doubt. So let's keep it. I don't know. Let's keep it close and say Palace 2, Wolves 1.
2-1.
There's really part of me that wants to go for a draw, but see, Cy was braver than me. He said 1-1.
Yeah,
That's sort
1-1.
of what my heart says, but
well, I think JSL's scoring 2. And I think those 2 come after Wolves have miraculously taken a 2-1 lead thanks to a penalty. Strand Larson buries one pretty late. Wolves lose 3-2.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Screw Jeff Shee. Screw Newcastle. Screw George Mendes. There you go.
That might actually be an exciting game to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of... I would like something enjoyable to watch, because these last 2 games, even though they were positive results, it gets to the point, Joe, where we watch sports for enjoyment. And I felt like the year that Raul got hurt too. It's like, when is it like good that the team's like getting results, but they're horrible watches?
Yeah, I mean, I'm conditioned for this, John. And again, I hate to bring the NFL into this conversation, but as a Detroit Lions fan for years, I'm conditioned to this. And then the Lions got better. Well, the Wolves got better. Wolves got better. They're the team we support. And all I can say is, it's been painful this year, but it doesn't stop me from watching and still participating and going through that misery with friends. It is what it is. And I just will continue to ride this one out and do the same thing in the championship next year.
I know, Joe. We had our pick of the litter, and what did we do? We chose the Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears of English soccer.
Yeah.
We're masochists.
But you know what? It was interesting, not to go back, but the whole idea with the Premier League, one of the stories that they were intrigued with was that Wolverhampton and Detroit are 2 very similar cities in terms of working class, passionate about their sports, and they like that similarity. And one of those stories might be featured in the documentary.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Detroit makes cars. Wolverhampton was making tires with Goodyear.
Yeah,
definitely. I've never really thought about that. That's a good connection there.
All right, it is that time of the show, our favorite time, where you, the listener, can ask anything about this wonderful club that is Wolverhampton Wanderers. Many would say, the Detroit of the West Midlands. You can email us at wholelotofwolves@gmail.com or reach us at X/Twitter at WLWpod. And of course, if you're watching now on the live stream, we always like to take some live questions if you have them. So first of all, from Tim, who is someone I know very well in Maryland. He was instrumental in the Annapolis portion of the U.S. Wolves tour, set us up at the brewery on the day of. That was very fun. With the championship season likely approaching, I'm wondering your thoughts on traveling to a championship game next season. Think it's smarter to fly into Birmingham to go to a game or fly to London and drive up from there. I already sent him a little message saying that you got to just go to London and take the train up. But just wondering, Joe, you've been doing this many, many years. Anything really change about that trip for the championship, you think? What about availability for away games potentially?
No. I mean, it just if you connect with the club and let them know you're coming, they will work with you to get tickets as best they can for away matches. Like when I was there in September, I went to St. James Park and I went to Tottenham. I went to Spurs, and the club was instrumental in helping me secure those tickets, and it was great. But I don't think the travel doesn't necessarily change. I mean, the best place to fly into if you can is Birmingham, even if you have to connect through Paris or Copenhagen or Amsterdam. In my opinion, you can fly into London, but that train ride, especially when you're flying overnight, that train ride can put you to sleep. When you're flying, you're kind of busy, and when you get to Birmingham, you're only a few minutes train ride away from Wolverhampton. I'll always go to Birmingham, fly into Birmingham rather than Manchester or London.
Of course, you're thinking like you get off the plane and go straight to the train.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and if you wanted
that
to
sounds
combine
miserable to me.
if you wanted to combine it with a trip, stay in London for a day or two or Manchester or something like that, but
yeah, there's a ton to do in London. I mean, that's what I did. Is we flew into London, we're there a couple days, and then took the train to Wolverhampton. But I can see if you've gone a couple of times, just flying into Birmingham makes a lot more sense.
it's a good observation, Josh, and you're right. When I lived there, we went to London 10 times, and I've been back to London multiple times after that. So there's not much there I haven't seen. I would rather go to Wolverhampton and go to the pub, the Great Western, or something like that. See friends there.
Yep. Yeah, it's just kind of. Are you just going to see Wolves, or are you going to make it like a whole London experience?
Yeah. The other thing you could do is you could fly into Dublin, and you could spend a couple days in Dublin and then take a flight over direct to Birmingham. If you want.
That's right. That's what you did last year, right?
Yeah, we went with the family. We spent a few days in Dublin on the way home, in Ireland on the way home.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and good to point out, as Joe said, get in touch with the club. If you're not sure how to do that, always good to reach out. If you have a local supporters group, usually they have someone who they can talk to at the club. It's not quite the same situation as it has been in the past, where there were sort of set asides for the supporters clubs from abroad, but there are people who are willing to help. And if you don't have a local group yet, first of all, start one. Reach out if you need help. But you can also always check the Wolves Facebook page. Joe, all three of us are, frequent posters and contributors there. And there's lots of other people there who have been over a ton who can help. So yeah, if there's anybody who's thinking about making the trip, you can obviously reach out to us. You can reach out to Joe. You can also reach out on the Facebook page. There's lots of people out there who can give you tips.
And Danny, if I can add something to the whole starting a supporter group of your own, there's some language out on the Wolves site that talks about some of the requirements for being a supporter group, like having a dedicated bank account and things like that. Don't worry about that stuff. A lot of that was done for local UK groups that were forming, but they are very liberal when it comes to international, in particular U.S. groups being formed.
They're like, whoa, there's more than like 3 of you guys? That's great.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, reach out to all of us if you have questions, because we've all been through that at various times.
Yep.
All right. From the previous show, we didn't have time to get to it, from Cy, who I see has been active in the chat tonight. With the ban on gambling sponsors next season, which company would you like to see on the front of the Wolves kit next season? Comedy roast answers only.
It's time. It's time, Joe. Doritos needs to come back, man.
Yeah. How about Manders?
Why not spoons? Why not leather spoons?
Or Goodyear?
Yeah. See, Doritos is always such a popular answer when this question comes up. I have to say, I want it specifically to be the Doritos 3D. Do they still make those? If they still make those, I want that to be the sponsor.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of nostalgia, right? When I lived over in England, I worked for a U.S. based ink company. We made ink for paying newspapers and that. They had acquired Manders inks over in the UK. So my old business cards say Manders on them. So and they had in the building, they had old Wolves jerseys with the Manders logo on it and things like that. Pretty cool.
What I'm going to be interested in is the big money sponsors right now are the gambling companies, right? So they're not going to just be up for anybody. They're going to be looking for the most money. So what do you guys think is going to be that business? Is it going to be AI companies? Is it going to be alcoholic companies? Or is it going to be something else that really start knowing, seeing all of the groups are taking that?
Pharmaceutical.
Crypto.
Oh, crypto.
I hate to be
100%.
cynical
It's
about
going to be
but
taken over by crypto. Why didn't I think of that?
I immediately just thought of like, what is another shady business where they just have like tons of cash and the desire to advertise? So
Yep. No,
that feels
right.
likely, which is disappointing and depressing. Whenever this, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I do have a question. Is the betting out of English football altogether, or just the Premier League?
That's a good
think
question.
It's all of it altogether.
I believe it's an FA rule. I'm gonna Google it right now.
Okay.
Maybe the money shop makes a return again. I don't know.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. It says Premier League. So it might just be the Premier League. We might be able to continue with DBet or ManBetX or whatever shell company we currently have.
Oh my god.
Yeah, whenever this question comes up,
AstroPay. I wish AstroPay came back.
That wasn't that great a company either. Whenever this question comes up, I always just Google like gold, orange, yellow company logos to see what comes up and what I'm reminded of. So I think the one that is closest in color has got to be Rockstar Games, the R with a star next to it. But I feel like that would be confusing to have just an R when your team is Wolverhampton Wanderers. Already people question like the sponsors being so big on the shirt. Bic Pens has kind of the right color. Hard Rock Cafe. Now Hard Rock Cafe might be pretty decent, because then it just ends up looking like one of the shirts you buy when you go there.
Yeah, I'm surprised Hard Rock Cafe is still in business.
Sai
just had the best comment. He said Joe has the right idea with pharma. Viagra will get wolves back up.
There you go. Is it Carhartt has a black and gold or black and yellow logo? Don't they? Is Stanley Tools?
Yep. Lay's potato chips, which over there is Walker's, I believe. I assume it's the same color. Yeah.
It's going to be crypto. Danny, you're totally right. All these with gambling companies, they're going to move, and it's either going to be AI or it's going to be crypto. It's going to be that shady-ass crap. You're 100% on point with that.
Yeah, I hate to be right. One last question I have that I'm adding in right now is just to revisit something we said last week. Alex asked you to put the odds on Adam Armstrong becoming the ending the season as top goal scorer. And you put it at plus 300, I believe, which then we realized we should have done some research because he has never scored more than 2 goals in a Premier League season in the past. So he's going to have to do better than that in 4 months, maybe 3 months at this point. So here's the follow-up question. Okay. What are the odds of Santi Bueno ending top goal scorer of the season?
It's still going to be high. I mean, what does he have right now?
He's got 2 in the league, I believe.
2 in the league, and so that's tied for first?
I think someone has 3. I think there's a couple people with 3, but he's 1 behind the lead.
It's still going to be pretty high. I mean, as a center back, it's got to be like plus 2,000. Plus 2,000. Not the worst. I mean, it's not going to be the odds of Leicester City winning the Premier League, so it's doable, but it would be pretty high.
Well, okay, yeah, he's currently tied. Tied for first are Krejci, Bueno, Hichan, Tolu, and Mateus Mane, all who have 2 goals.
Yeah, there's just too many other guys, and in being a center back, it makes it tough. And he's not like a big, imposing center back.
And we don't get enough set pieces every game for him to park himself in front of the net.
That's true. I don't know. Alex was really excited about the plus 300 for Adam Armstrong. I might be more excited for the plus 2,000 for Santi
Plus 2,000.
I am not a betting man, but that would be interesting to me. Plus, that makes it more fun.
Yeah, I mean, they would, because that's one of those where the bookkeepers are like, well, let's make it a little bit. It's probably not going to happen, but if you set it right there where maybe you get a few free bucks, they look at it as a few free bucks here and there.
Yeah,
that's the thing with odd setting. You got to make it so it's a nice little mix where you're going to draw in bettors while not losing money. Yeah. So there you go, plus 2,000.
All right, good stuff. Well, that wraps up No Stupid Questions. Remember, you can always reach us between episodes at wholelotofwolves@gmail.com. You can tweet at us. You can do all sorts of things. Find ways to contact us. Now, Josh, let us know what our Paramount Plus Watch of the Week is.
That's right, because we all are going to be getting Paramount Plus to watch Wolves next year in the championship. So this week, in honor of the passing of James Van Der Beek, we have to go to his biggest non-Dawson's Creek role, and that is Varsity Blues. A movie from 1990, good football, American football movie, with one of the most memorable scenes, probably, of 90s films. Joe, do you know what that scene would be?
I do not.
That would be when he walked in the living room and she had the whipped cream bikini on.
Oh,
that's the most memorable scene from that movie. Absolutely.
Yikes.
So James Van Der Beek, he plays quarterback Mox Moxon, who, when the starter gets hurt, and he comes in and has to lead the team. Also, some memorable characters were the starting quarterback, who was Paul Walker, and Ron Lester, who played Billy Bob, the offensive lineman who kept getting concussions. You know, we mentioned the plus 2,000. I guarantee you the odds would have been a lot higher for John Voight, who played the coach, who is now 87. He outlived James Van Der Beek, Paul Wall, and Ron Lester, who played Billy Bob.
Wow.
Would have never suspected that to happen.
Well, this podcast took a dark turn at the end.
I'm just saying, an 87-year-old guy, I mean, yeah, it's
you're
pretty
right.
crazy. It's just great. It's a good movie, though. Danny, have you seen that? No, I haven't seen it.
I have not seen Varsity Blues, no.
It's a good movie. It is not just straight up about it. Now, is it Friday Night Lights? No. Friday Night Lights is better. But this is still a really good movie. So there you go. Varsity Blues. Watch it on Paramount Plus.
All right, and we're about to wrap up. So, Joe, thanks for joining us, obviously. And you already mentioned a lot of this, but let folks know again about the meetup in Michigan. Give us the elevator speech for folks who missed it at the beginning, and also how to get in touch with you and Michigan Wolves.
Yeah, the Premier League is coming in to film an episode of their docu-series called The Alternate Derby. They're going to be filming it at Doyle's Irish Pub on Friday, February 27th at 3 o'clock. All Wolves fans are welcome. The club will be there. They'll have merchandise, the film crew. There's a chance you could end up on a documentary if you show up. If you have any questions, I'm at X, at Michigan Wolves USA. I'm also on the Wolves USA Facebook group. In fact, they made me an admin there, so I see a lot of those messages. And feel free to reach out. Any questions?
Great. You see all the messages that are too hot to be posted.
I'm curious. Are there some juicy ones that come in?
No. Mostly what you have to watch out for is the clickbait stuff.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you're always cautious about who you let into any group, because sometimes they'll get the clickbait stuff, and yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Anyway, great to hear about the event up in Michigan. I hope it goes so great. Obviously, say hi to Todd for us.
Yeah,
Speaking of ill-advised drinks at various times, the planning process for the U.S. Wolves tour occasionally involved some late nights, but all fun. And just want to add, like I did last week, that if you're involved in a local Wolves supporters group, kind of like we mentioned earlier, we'd love to hear from you. If you're thinking about starting one, obviously you can reach out to us, and you can reach out to people on the Wolves USA Facebook page. But yeah, if you're already part of one and you don't think we know about you, or even if we do know about you, drop us a line so we can let folks know where and when you meet up, because that's what it's all about, and that's what we love hearing about. So thanks also to Alex on the socials, whose birthday was the same day as the Grimsby game. Happy birthday, Alex. We'll be back next week live on Monday evening to review the Arsenal and Palace games that we just talked about. And of course, look ahead to that Villa game that Joe's going to be watching with 50 or more people, plus camera crew. Of course,
what could go wrong?
What could go wrong indeed? What could go wrong for Villa? Why don't we ask that question? Anyway, you'd be doing us a huge favor and help grow the Whole Lot of Wolves family by giving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Hit the like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channels, do all that good stuff. And finally, hopefully, sometime during this extremely busy fixture schedule, you will still have time to say, "Up the mighty Wolves."